Zago, Dr. Joseph Martin, Don Galenkwa. Sitting Bull, Tatanka Yotanka, the great visionary medicine man, warrior, chief. Many of you would know of him, and he is an Ogallala Sioux medicine man. He lived between 1831, and it said that he was born on the Yellowstone River in Montana by his descendants. They confirmed that. And he lived until December 15th, 1890. Tatanka Yotanka has blessed and graced us as we've done so many sweat lodges here on Turtle Island in the last 42 years or so, and his presence has given us great courage and strength and direction and focus. Before I share about his life, and of course I always like to share his characteristics, the characteristics of these great Native spiritual master chiefs, peace chiefs, war chiefs, it's important to know that you can also read a lot of books in and around and about Sitting Bull, and there are many movies in which he has been portrayed as well. So, Sitting Bull, I'm going to tell you a story about him first. When he was born, he was called Jumping Badger, and in this story you'll see how his great courage allowed him to sit still. And being a medicine man, he often, in fact daily, offered tobacco in thanks to the Creator, Wakantanka, and to the Great Spirit, and to the ancestors. And it's said that he once took his peace pipe during a battle that was between his own Hunkpapa Oglala Sioux people and the white US military or cavalry, and he within the range of the bullets that were being fired from the side of the American cavalry, he went and he sat in the middle of the battlefield, and he took out his medicine pipe from his medicine bag over his shoulder, and very slowly and carefully took it out, offered it to the 6 directions and then to his heart, put the sacred tobacco in, tamped it down, lit it, and smoked the peace pipe, and offered it up to the Great Spirit and to all the others around. And the bullets were whizzing over the top of his head, beside his left ear, beside his right ear, over his shoulder, beside him, and so on. And he continued his prayerful smoking of the peace pipe until he was finished, and then he simply slowly put all the peace pipe and the tobacco, sacred tobacco, back into his pouch and into his bag, and then over his shoulder, and got up and walked back to his horse on the lines of the First Nations, the Ogallala Sioux, and got on his horse, and then they went away. This one story alone tells you perhaps the most important things about Sitting Bull. His courage, his patience, his perseverance, his steadfastness, his determination, his absolute trust in spirit to be safe and protected when he knows he was doing the right thing, which is to safeguard the lives and the culture and the identity of his people and the elders and the children and the descendants to come, and all the buffalo and all our relations, or all our animals and trees and plants and herbs and medicines. Now, going back to his life story then, which is always quite exciting to learn about these First Nations spiritual masters and teachers, it's clear that he had a lot of abilities as a young man, born into the Ogallala Sioux, Hunkpapa Lakota peoples. Now, he was involved in many different battles with different cavalries and U.S. military from different forts as the white people were moving west in the mid-1800s and slaughtering the buffalo and so on. Now, between the time of 1868 and 1876, when there were many great battles between the whites and the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. He became one of the greatest, if not the greatest, chief at that time of all the assembled First Nations, not just the Lakota, Sioux, Nakota, Dakota, but the Cheyenne and many others as well, even the Crow eventually. And being a visionary and a medicine man, he was given a vision for a battle that would happen at the Greasy Grass River, now known as the Battle of the Little Bighorn, on June 25th, 1876, when Sitting Bull had a vision that all the white soldiers would fall from the sky as they entered and attacked the campground of over 2,000 teepees of the assembled many First Nations there. In this battle, Tatanka Yotanka, Crazy Horse, and many other great war and peace chiefs were involved there to protect the land and the people and the elders and the children. And as you know from your history books, that General George Custer, head of the 7th Cavalry, was completely defeated when he attacked the First Nations and was shooting with his rifles at the people. Through the vision of Sitting Bull, the people became encouraged that they needed to defend their own territory and lands and peoples. After this battle, as you can imagine, though, the cavalry was relentless in searching him and hunting him down. And so he moved with his band of Lakota Sioux to Wood Mountain in what was then the Northwest Territories, but in fact is in Canada across the Medicine Line in the province today of Saskatchewan. And it's called Wood Mountain after a Métis word which means the place where all the poplar trees and leaves are in the wind, and an area that is typically treeless. Sitting Bull met there as he crossed the Medicine Line James Morrow Walsh, and Walsh was the head of the Northwest Mounted Police at the time, now the RCMP in Canada, and Walsh told him that he was now safe on British soil, but he would have to, along with his people, Sitting Bull Tatanka Yotanka, would have to obey all the laws of the British people on the land there in Karnataka, or what we call now Canada. Sitting Bull settled there for 4 years, and actually I have been to Fort Walsh which is now the Cypress Hills Provincial Park in southwestern Saskatchewan. It's a beautiful place. I've been to the fort, and I've actually been led to the place where Sitting Bull had his teepee and stayed for 4 years. Now, although he never surrendered and he was there safe for 4 years and became very, very good friends with James Morrow Walsh, his people were suffering and dying. They were starving. There weren't as many buffalo to eat there, although they were able to eat and catch some buffalo. Of course, they were being slaughtered by the military and other people in the South, in America particularly. And they were starving and they were exhausted, and they were missing their own land and territory, which was their traditional lands, and of course their other fellow tribal members and band members. So after 4 long years of exhaustion and suffering, Sitting Bull decided that he was going to go back to his tribal lands in North and South Dakota. In parting, he gave a ceremonial headdress to Walsh, which one can still see. When he went back, he was hounded by all the people, and eventually on July 19th, 1881, he did surrender his rifle along with his son and all his other warriors to the soldiers and the cavalry at Fort Buford. And there he only had 195 of his people left, although there had been well over 1,000 before all these wars had started many decades earlier. Eventually he went back to Standing Rock Agency, which is a large territory which had traditionally been given by treaty in North and South Dakota to the Lakota Dakota. Unfortunately, most of that land has been taken away, just kind of gobbled up over the decades, as is usually the case with treaties with the First Nations here in Turtle Island and elsewhere on Mother Earth. And eventually, after 9 years of, again, suffering and plenary sessions with the white people, nothing came of it. The treaties were being discarded more and more all the time. And eventually, Sitting Bull got involved in the ghost dance, which had been started by Wovoka, who was a Paiute First Nation on the Ute Reservation in Nevada, who started the ghost dance. It came to him in a vision, whereby he said, if the people danced and sang these sacred songs, all of which were songs, power songs for the people given by the spirit ancestors who had been killed by the westward movement of the white people over the time since 1492, when the people got together, danced in a circle as a unity, and sang these power songs, the ghost dance songs, then the bullets of the white people would not hurt them, and it would not go through their ghost shirts, which are these shirts that they wore, and not kill them. Now, of course, one can say that bullets would always go through a cotton shirt, but what it really means is symbolically, and this is a truth here, isn't it, that bullets cannot harm the soul. If your soul is pure and clear and true and real and authentic, nothing can harm you. No matter what happens to your physical body, you will always be true to spirit and united in the one circle, one heart, one mind, one drum, one people, one spirit. And that is your immortal truth and your immortal being. The US president and the military thought that as Sitting Bull was getting more and more involved with the ghost dance and actually participated to some degree along with his family, that this was a great danger for the military and for the American civilization. So on December 15th, 1890, 39 actually, they were part Navajo, and some of them police officers, they were First Nations officers, were rounded up along with 4 volunteers, and they went to the log cabin home of Sitting Bull in the Standing Rock Agency in North Dakota, and early one morning, and they knocked on the door and asked him to come out, and eventually, of course, they woke him up. Eventually, he did come out, and they arrested him. They're going to take him to prison, and there was a fight that happened when one of his older sons, whose name was Crowfoot, after the great Blackfoot or Blackfeet, or what we call Siksika chief in Alberta, a good friend of Sitting Bull's. So Sitting Bull's older son, Crowfoot, was fighting back against the arrest of his father. Shots were fired. One of the police officers shot Sitting Bull in the stomach. Another shot him directly in the side of the head. And of course he fell and passed into spirit. And then these police officers went into his cabin and they killed his wife, shot her, and they shot his little children who were hiding under the bed. Killed them. So what is the legacy of Sitting Bull then? As I've mentioned to you, he is thought of, and quite rightly, even despite the mythologization that we make of any of these great people in our world, as one of the great medicine men, visionaries, warriors, peace chief as well, trying to hold and keep the peace, a mystic, someone who was there for the service of his people, and someone who could see into the future and predict things that were going to happen, and thereby try to save and protect as many of his own people and animals as possible. As I say, we've been blessed in all our many hundreds of sweat lodges to have the spiritual presence of Tatanka Yotanka with us in our endeavors to create our own spirits of greater courage and love and kindness and respect for all our relations. Mitikuyo Yasin, we say in Lakota. And so that in honoring Dendrea, the great white buffalo calf woman, that and the eagle spirit and the creator Wakantanka, you can walk a true-hearted path, a heart of unity, compassion, respect, and kindness. And most of all, I think what we can learn from the spirit of Wakantankas that came through Tatanka Yotanka's sitting bull is the perfect, absolute, irrepressible, uh, perceptible courage, the courage and strength that comes from someone who knows his heart from the inside out, follows his heart, and is willing to stand up for the truth and what is right in terms of integrity, honesty, in morality, human morality, if you like, and the rights of all individuals for self-determination and for life and the living and their own personal freedom and livelihood on planet Mother Earth. This is a great man. He is still with us. It's a great life story. It's immeasurably a powerful story that I am hoping and trusting is inspiring you as you sit and listen and take this into your heart right now. All blessings to you from Tatanka Yotanka. May his life and his spirit and his light continue to shine from the inside out in your heart and give you all the courage you need to live a holy life as he did. Dr. Joseph Martin, Donna Galenqua, light from Tatanka Yotanka to you.